Welcome to the Jay Show. This is Dr. Jay Smith here in London. I'm with my good friend and colleague. I'm almost going to call you Dr. Hatuntosh because you really should be a doctor for the kind of work you have done. This really should go into a PhD. You have an enormous amount of material that you can work with here. You've done a great job. You've looked at all these different Qurans. I know you don't like, you're very humble and you don't like to be pumped up like this, but have you noticed that these are brand new? This is all this material, these different examples you've given are all brand new. We have not really heard anything that you have introduced in the last former 13 segments.
Yeah, yes, we've been looking at the claim that every Arabic Quran in the world, from Malaysia to Alaska, from South Africa to Turkey, even to Russia, every Arabic Quran in the world is dot to dot exactly the same. And we are looking at that claim. We come across with different Arabic Qurans and we start investigating that, and then we saw actually claims is false claim. And last 13 episode we are looking at how the Quran is compiled, how the different variations of the Arabic Qurans existed in 7th century until 9th century, 10th century, and how those different Arabic Qurans exist in 21st century.
Now we've come to our 14th episode, our last episode. In this episode, we really want to bring it to conclusion.
Yeah.
And we want to show and look at and do an overview of everything. We're going to do that because after we have looked at the last 5 slides.
Yeah.
We still have 5 slides to go through. And these are the variants that you've come across, 45,300, over 300.
45,339.
39 variants within just 23 Qurans,
Yeah.
all in Arabic. These are not translations. These are not Turkish to Arabic or English to Arabic or any other language to Arabic. These are with Arabic to Arabic.
Yeah.
And that's why we have our Arabic specialist. I want to give her a special thanks. She is not on film, but she has really helped you unpack and translate. You've done an amazing job for the last year and a half. You've worked through every one of these verses. You've worked through hundreds of them. All 45,000 you have not yet had a chance to do so.
So what we've done is after we gathered 26 different Arabic Qurans from the Hafs Quran,
different from the Hafs Quran.
Yes, altogether we are talking about 27 Qurans, but we are investigating especially 26 of them because they are the different from the Hafs Quran. We brought Arabic expert together.
And this is the Hafs Quran. This is the one I use at Speaker's Corner. This is the one I take down to Speaker's Corner every Sunday.
Yeah.
This little guy here. And I always keep the Arabic and the English side by side. So you're talking about the Arabic side.
Yes, we are looking at the Arabic
That's the
side.
Hafs.
Yeah. After we kind of look at the variations, we asked Arabic speakers who grew up in the Arabic countries, who knows Arabic, their own language, and who knows a little bit about Islam, to look at the variations and then compare them. Are those variations changing any meaning of the word, or they are just simply different, but it doesn't change the meaning? After spending like days and days and days, now we come up approximately 45,339 variations in 23 Qurans. Yet there are the Qurans we didn't get the chance to look at it. So we are just giving our dear Muslim friends a little bit, let's say, taste or introduction, so they can go and check all those Qurans. So in the PowerPoints, they will see pictures of the Quran, which will emphasize actually it is not who wrote the Quran down, or it is not who just making it up. Those pictures are taken from the Qurans for you to see that you can have access.
These are the Qurans that come subsequent to Uthman. So these are the Qurans that come in the 8th and 9th and 10th century.
Yeah, we know in the time of Uthman, people were disagreeing regarding which Quran, all those kind of things. And we know from the Islamic tradition that Uthman ordered to burn all the Quranic manuscripts. And we come across with those Qurans in first 300 years of Islam. And people are talking about it, they are writing about it, yet in 2017, Muslims are telling us not even a dot changed in the Arabic
Nothing
Quran.
has been changed. We're finding thousands of differences. We're going to go back now and we're going to look at 5 more examples of these differences. We're going to end with the last 5. We could have had hundreds.
Yeah.
In fact, we could have had thousands, because it would be too difficult for everybody to read, to sit down and look at all of them.
Yeah.
You will be compiling this. This will be done on videos in later dates so that everybody can look at them. But for now, just for this show,
Yep.
for the J show, we're just looking at a smattering. And let's then now open up and let's go to Surah 43. We've already done Surah 1, Surah 2, Surah 3, Surah 7, Surah 9, Surah 10. We've done some of Surah 15, Surah 18, Surah 19.
Yep.
We're now jumping quite a few ones. We did Surah 38. We wanted to now jump to Surah 43 because we don't have that much time. This is
Yep.
our last episode. Let's go to Surah 43, verse 19. And let's have our Arabic scholar, if she could read the words in both the Hafs and the Ra renditions.
حفص عباد روح عند
Just listening to it. Are you listening to the difference between these two words? Repeat those two words again.
عباد عند.
Now let's look and see the differences. Because it's obviously, when you look at the Hafs, it's a ba that has a dot below the line. When you look at the Ra, it has a dot above the line. And you can see that changes it completely. It changes it drastically because obviously you can, in fact, there's in the Hafs, it's not only a ba, a dot below the line, there's also a dagger aleph that's been added.
Yeah.
Whereas in the Ra, the dot is above the line and there's no dagger aleph. It's missing the dagger aleph. Not only on the left side, the Hafs, is there a dhamma above the da, but in the Ra, there is a fatha above the da. So in every letter, it's changed except the first letter.
Okay, does it change the meaning? That's the important question.
Well, you can see it certainly changed the visual. Visually, it looks so different. Anybody who's not Arabic can speak. You can see how different it is. Let's see what it does in the translation. In the Hafs, it's translated, and they make the angels who are slaves of the beneficent females.
In the row, it's and they make the angels who are in the presence of the beneficent females.
Ooh, Now, this
So one of them is slaves, other one is in the presence.
Yes, of the beneficent, I would be Allah, of course.
Yeah.
Are you an angel in the presence of the Allah, or are you in the presence?
Or are you slaves?
Are you slaves? Sorry.
Yeah.
Are you slaves in the presence of Allah, or are you just in the presence of Allah? Now, I have two problems here. Problem one, are the angels slaves of Allah or simply in the presence of Allah? That's the first problem.
Yeah, it's important because we don't know actually what Islam teaches about the positions of Allah, positions of angels. So are angels simply, when they stand in front of Allah, are they simply slaves, or they are just being in the presence of Allah?
Well, if I were an angel, I would prefer to be in God's presence, thank you, not a slave. So that would have a huge importance for me as a slave. But then it goes, here's the one, and we asked our Arabic speaker if she understood the context. She says, I don't even understand the context of this verse. What does it mean made into females? That's another huge thing, because the second problem, is it the slaves or those in the presence of Allah who are made into females? Can you see, there's another problem here. Who are being made into females? The angels or all of those who are presence of Allah? If all of those who are in the presence of Allah are made into females, ooh, you got a big problem here.
That contradicts the Islamic tradition.
Absolutely.
Because lots of ladies are not going to make the paradise.
In fact, don't we have a famous Al-Bukhari in volume 1 mentions this. He says that Muhammad was given a vision of heaven.
Yeah.
And when he was given a vision of heaven, what did he find in heaven?
He saw majority of women were in hell.
And the majority of those in heaven
were male.
Were male.
So in that case, the basic question will come, is Allah going to change male who make the paradise, turning them to female? In that case, where is this like over 70 huris stand?
Or is Allah going to make the angels into females, which would then answer the question where the hooties come from. I mean, there's a huge amount of things we could pull out of this. I'm being a little facetious. I'm being a little funny because you can see, you can do an entire doctoral thesis just on this one verse. What does this mean? If this is angels in the presence of Allah or just everybody in the presence of Allah, are the angels changed into slaves? I'm sorry, into females, or everybody in the presence of Allah changed into females? I would suggest that it would probably, the Hafs is correct. But this has huge implications as to what's going to happen to those in the presence of Allah, and what's going to happen to angels, and where are all the females going to come from? I would, boy, oh boy, you can see there's all kinds of problems that are coming out of this.
So summary of Surah 34 verse 19 is,
Surah 43 verse 19.
43:19. When the angels are in the presence of Allah, are they slaves or they are angels who are in the presence of Allah?
Or are they female or not?
Yeah.
Okay,
Why angels are female? That would be another general
maybe all
knowledge
angels
question.
become female. I mean, you can see we can run all kinds of different tangents on this. We're not going to do that. We don't have time to. This is our last episode. Let's go to the next one. We leave that up to the listener and the watcher to see this. Now we go to Surah 46, Ayah 50. And if we can have our Arabic expert just go ahead and read the two different renderings.
حفص إحسانا الدوري حسنا.
Okay, now here you can see in the Hafs, S.I.N, there is the Dagar Alif again has been brought in. It's very small there. You have to really look at it to really see it. But there it is above the Sin. And then on the Al-Duri, the Dagar Alif is not there. Let's see how it changes the translation. In the Hafs, it's translated, and we have enjoined on man doing good to his parents.
In Al-Duri, it is, and we have enjoined on man beauty to his parents.
This really does change the meaning.
One of them is doing good, other one is beauty.
So,
they're pretty different.
Yeah, are we supposed to be doing good to our parents, or are we to be beautiful for our parents? Now, as a parent, I would prefer a son who is doing good for me rather than just being beautiful.
Or just looking good.
Just looking good.
Yeah.
But this has completely different meaning.
Yeah.
This has completely different context. This has completely different ramifications depending on what will happen to the parent and what will happen to the man.
Child, yeah.
The child, or in this case. So, huge difference between this. And you can see, visually, you can see just by changing, putting a daga aleph, taking out the daga aleph, putting a vowel here, putting another vowel in, adding an aleph on this side and not adding it, it changes the meaning, context, and also the theology.
Yeah.
Let's go on then to the next verse. This is our third from the end. Surah 47, verse 4, or Ayah 4. And let's have our Arabic expert again read the difference here.
حفص قتلوا ورش قاتلوا.
Okay, here we go again. The Dagar Aleph is added in the Warsh. It's not there in the Hafs. And what's more, in the Warsh, you will have a Dhamma that is above the Ku. And then you have the Kasra under the Ta. In the Warsh, you have a Fatah, followed by not only a Fatah, but a Dagar Aleph that is incorporated in the Ta, over the Ta. Now let's see how that changes the context or changes the translation. In my Hafs translation, it's, and the ones who have been killed in the way of Allah, then He will never send their deeds into error. In other words, He will give them recompense.
In the Wash, it is, and the ones who fought in the way of Allah, and then He will never send their deeds into error.
This is similar to the one we saw about the prophets earlier in the
Surah
other
3,
episode.
verse 146.
So the significance, are we rewarded by being killed or simply fighting?
There is a big implication for that, because the Muslims who join in with the suicide bombing, do they seriously need to bomb themselves and then kill? Or is it okay to just fight in the name of Allah?
Well, if I had a choice, I would go with Warsh every time, because Warsh would give me an awful lot more alleviation. I don't have to eradicate myself. I can just fight and get still recompense. In this case, if you only have the one Hafs in front of you, you better die. It's only those who die who then will get recompense.
Yeah.
So you can see this changes the meaning enormously. It changes people's lives. It will change the volition. It will also change their
theology.
view of battle. It will also change whether or not they're going to go to the death. Because if you believe you have to go to the death to be able to get to paradise, rather than just fighting, you're going to have a huge context difference in how you're going to fight, and you're going to be willing to die. Now, we're going to go to the second last one, our penultimate example, and this is Surah 49, Ayah 6. Let's have our expert then read again the hafs and the khalaf.
حفص فتبينوا خلف فتثبتوا.
Woo, woo, woo. Okay, now take a look at this. Look at the difference in the word here. Fatah is the same in both of them, both the hafs and the khalaf. But then you get to the third letter, and you have in the hafs a ba, that's a dot below the line, and the khalaf, you have 3 dots above it, a tha. So you can see it's completely different. And then you have on the hafs, after you have the ba, then you have a ya, 2 dots below the line, whereas over in the khalaf, after the tha, you have a ba below the line. So you have really completely different derivation. More than that, you have completely different letters, which means completely different words. In the hafs, it says, O you who believe, if a rebellious evil person comes to you with news, verify it, lest you harm people in ignorance.
In the khalaf is, O you who believe, if a rebellious evil person comes to you with news, stand firm. Let's you harm people in ignorance.
So, do we verify a bad person's news, or do we stand firm?
That's
Completely
a good
different
question.
actions. I would suggest verifying is a lot more practical than just standing firm and doing nothing. So it seems like in the hafs, it makes a lot more logic. If someone is a bad person and they're bringing news, I want to verify it to make sure it is worthy of the sender, because I don't trust the person. I therefore don't trust the news. I would want to verify it. I want to check it out. We're right now in this fake news era that everybody's talking about. We're trying to verify it. There's fact checks going on all the time. The hafs realize there's a problem here. The person, the khalaf, when he wrote it, he said, listen, just stand firm. Don't worry about it. Sit back. Don't worry. Let it go. No, that doesn't make sense.
Then as a thinker person who exercise their brain, then you would have to go with hafs.
I would suggest, I'm a thinking, you're a thinking person, we would go with the hafs. In quite a few of the times we've gone with the hafs here. In this case, I would go with the hafs as well. Now let's do with our last one. There are many others. We're going to go jump to Surah 98. We're looking at Surah 49. We're going to jump to Surah 98. These are much, much smaller surahs. These are just a few verses, the latter ones of the Quran. And here we have the hafs and the warsh. Let's end with hafs and warsh, and let's hear the differences that we see here.
حفص البرية ورش البريئة.
So you have a hamza on one side and a shabda on the other, and you can see that in the hamza, the hafs side, it's missing the fatah, and it's been added over here on the warsh. Now, you might say, okay, so it's adding a few hamza and a shabda so here. What does that do to the translation? Let's see what it does to the translation, and I'll start with the hafs if that's okay.
Yep.
Indeed, they who disbelieved among the people of the scriptures and the polytheists will be in the fire of hell, abiding eternally therein. Those are the worst of creatures.
It says, indeed, they who disbelieved among the people of the scripture and the polytheists will be in the fire of hell, abiding eternally therein. Those are the worst of the innocent.
Oh, hold on a minute. Creatures versus innocent. Why are you smiling?
It's not very nice things to say to the people of the book, Jay.
That's us. It's referring to us. Are we creatures or are we innocent?
Are you worst of the creatures? Are you worst of the innocent?
Well, I would suggest that there's not only a problem, because one is talking about purpose, and others are talking about a category of people. So if there are creatures, we are the worst of creatures. That's not very nice. I don't like the hafs what are doing that. But the warsh is trying to make it a little softer by saying, are they the worst of the innocent? But what are the innocent doing in hell?
So that means like you've got 10 worst people, and then you pick the best worst. You will be the top one of the innocent. And what are you doing in hell as a people of the book?
You've got not only a totally different word, you not only got a totally different context, you've also got a totally different theology. Because that means creatures, the worst of creatures, should be in hell. But why should the innocent be in hell?
I don't think logically the worst of the creatures should be in hell, because the reason you are in hell, you are people of the book who disbelieved in Allah and who disbelieved in Muhammad.
Okay, now that's your own Christian proclivities coming forward. But nonetheless, if you're just a neutral person looking at this, you can see there's a problem here. This does change the meaning. Now, Hatun, let's just go back and let's just go through. We only have about 8 minutes left for now. This is our last episode, number 14. We want to unpack all that we have done in 8 minutes. Can we do that? Let's go and see what we have seen so far.
we started with the tradition, what Islamic tradition tells us about the Quran. Islamic tradition tells us Quran has been revealed to Muhammad through an angel from 610 to 632. Muhammad didn't write anything down.
He couldn't read or write.
Yet he had a scribes
Zayd ibn Thabit.
who were writing things down.
What is a Zayd ibn Thabit? He was a secretary.
He
What
was
do
a
secretaries
secretary.
do? They
His
write.
job was to write
So
things
why
down.
didn't he write it down?
He didn't compile anything when Muhammad died in 632. There is no Quran. From 632 634, we look at the Islamic tradition tells us Abu Bakr has been urged to compile the
First
Quran.
caliph. At the Battle of Yamama,
Yamama.
many of those who had memorized it had died.
Yes, when we say many, we are talking only 70 people who memorized the Quran. They died. Suddenly, Islamic world get conscious. They are losing the Quran.
You're just actually going through what the Islamic traditions are
Yes.
telling us. These
Yeah.
are from the 9th century, redacted back. This is their story,
Yeah.
okay?
And so Abu Bakr is urged to compile the Quran, and then he compiles the first Quran between 632 634.
Okay, that's the first recension.
Yeah.
Now we jump to Uthman about 650, 652. Uthman's
Yeah.
the third caliph. He had been in power since 646 to 656. But around 652, 66, there are many people who were coming to Uthman saying there are quite a few Qurans. We've got a problem
Yeah.
here.
So as people go to war, they start calling each other kafir, disbeliever, because the way they recite the Quran.
Okay.
What happens is Uthman urged to compile and then make one perfect copy, which was existed before.
This is the one that was written at the time of Abu Bakr that you referred to earlier.
Yeah.
That was given to Hafsa,
Hafsa, who
one
was
of
the
the
wife of Muhammad.
wives
and-
of Muhammad.
yeah.
She put it under her bed, according to tradition, and left it there for 18 to 20 years.
Yeah.
It is now being brought back out, given to Uthman. Uthman then gives it to Zayd ibn Thabit. He, along with Zubair, Alas, and Harith, the four of them now, are given the responsibility by Uthman to rewrite the Quran. Okay,
Yes.
this is in around 650, 652.
Yes. And if there is any disagreement between this committee,
Right.
then they need to go with the Quraysh dialect.
Qurayshi dialect, which
Yeah.
already we said is a problem because in order to have dialectical differences, you have to have vowelization. That means the dama, the kasra, and the fatta. Those didn't even exist in the 7th
yes,
century.
they were
So
in-
how can you have a dialectical difference in a written consonantal text form?
Answer to that question will come to us from Al-Bukhari, because he's writing in the 9th century.
In the 9th century,
In
he
9th
says this,
century,
which
he's
did make
aware of
sense.
those things, and then in 7th century, people
He
weren't aware of
redacted it back without looking at his
Yeah.
history. So then what happened next? He then has this written down. What does he do with that final copy that was written by those four men?
So as they compile one perfect Quran, he sends the 9 different cities with this nine Quran with one person who memorized the Quran well.
Okay.
As he does that, he ordered all the manuscripts to written form of the Quran to be burned.
And we do know the 9 cities, do we not?
Yes, we do.
Let's see if we can remember them. I'm trying to think of them off the top of my head.
Damascus, Baghdad,
Basra, Baghdad, Damascus,
Damascus,
Jerusalem,
Aden,
Cairo, Alexandria,
Aden,
Aden, Herat, and Nishapur.
Yes.
That's 9 right there.
That's the 9 cities.
Those are the 9 cities.
And
that-
we are aware is Islam, Muslim scholars has in-house debates, what are those cities?
and they sent them with other people to make sure that they would not change it or
Yes,
corrupt it.
who knew the Quran very well, went with one perfect Quran to
So the
these
7
cities.
ahruf that Muslims always talk about, these 7 readings existed at the time of Muhammad.
Yes. So in the time of Muhammad, we look at the Islamic tradition, which tells us Allah revealed the Quran in 7 different ways. In
These are
7
the
ahruf.
qira'at or the Arab. We need to go real quick now.
Yep.
These are destroyed by Uthman.
Yes.
So these no longer are a case. This cannot be an excuse now. You cannot talk about the 7 readings that existed at the time of Muhammad.
Because
those
Uthman
have all been,
discredited them.
he now throws them away and now only has 1.
Yeah.
These are sent to 9 cities. What happens next in the 8th and the 9th and the 10th century?
So as Quran travels to different cities, we see people who memorize the Quran as they pass to their cities, their students, there are variations appears from one Quran to other Quran.
Students disagreed with teachers.
Yes.
And we know of 6 different cities.
And we see teachers are disagreeing with the original Quran arrived to that city.
And let's just go through, just to remind the people what we're talking about, which cities we're talking about. I'll just go through them. You don't have to go
Yeah.
put them up there. But we're talking about Mecca, Medina, Damascus, Kufa, and Basra. So 5 cities that are authoritative Qurans were sent to.
Yeah.
And in those 5 cities, we have a good 24 different students and teachers who have different variations.
Yes.
Then we have another 13 which are not as official that disagree again. So a total of 37 different individuals, men, not women, men, who disagree with the one that we use today, the
With
Hafs.
the Hafs Quran, yeah.
Amongst them, you have already found how many variations?
45,339.
45,339. Next week, there'll be even more. This is what we have found today, which is, we're now the 1st of March, 2017.
Yeah.
In a year's time, we'll come back, it'll be thousands more. And we've looked at them because Muslims have said these are nothing big, they're nothing great. Okay, so there's a dot missing above, there's a dot missing below. It doesn't change the meaning.
Yeah.
What have we found?
We have found actually it does change the meaning.
It changes it immensely, doesn't
yeah,
it?
it does. There are, of course, there are the verses. It doesn't even affect any meaning. Yet there are the verses change the meaning. There are the verses change the theology. There are the verses discredits what Muslims are claiming today.
So we have 37 different teachers over a period of 200 years who are introducing variations. We've already counted 45,000 of them. And you have 26 Qurans that you have found, actually 27 if you include the Hafs. So 27 different ones. There may be more out there that we have yet to discover. You have, in the intervening 1,400 years, no one has bothered to sublimate these 37. No one has bothered to sublimate these 26 Qurans, these 37 different scholars. They're still being printed and published in the world today. You can go around and still buy them on the markets today. And they even put them in different colors in some cases, so that you can even see where the differences are. They're not trying to hide it, but Muslims in the West are trying to hide this, and you now can see why they're trying to hide it, Hatun, because these absolutely change the meaning. I hope all of you are watching and listening to what we've said here. What we're saying is very important. The Quran is not from God, that is for sure. It does not come from heaven. It does not come from some eternal tablets that have been sequestered there for eternity or sent down piecemeal over a period of 22 years by a man named Muhammad. That is pretty well substantiated from what we've seen in these 14 episodes. More than that, it doesn't even come from Uthman. Uthman, it looks like, we don't even know where that one Quran is that was sent to the 9 cities, and sublimating and destroyed all the 7 ahruf that Muslims try to claim. That was from before the time of Uthman. But show me where Uthman's manuscript is, because now we're finding 37 different teachers and students changed it in the next 200 years. Those changes are still there today in the 21st century. They're still being published today in the 21st century. These are not innocent changes. These are not inconsequential changes. These substantially change not only the words, the phrases, the verses, they change the meaning, and in some cases the theology. That's why we've been bringing these episodes to you. Hatun, this has been a great job, and I feel exhausted as we've been thinking in these last 14 episodes what we've gone through. This is just the beginning. This is the first time we've ever filmed this. This is the first time we've actually unpacked it. This is the first time you and I have actually had a chance to actually show what you have seen. And you have seen, we have been putting text to text next to each other. We have been showing slide with slide, the Arabic with the Arabic, from the Hafs to the Warsh, the Hafs to the Al-Duri, and the other ones. We've been showing them side by side so that you can see the differences, not just listen to what we're saying. Now you've got to come to conclusions. Is this really a book from God, or is this nothing more than a book from men? I would suggest this is a book written by men, many men. 37 that we've been able to find from 6 different cities, looking over 200 years, and then finally compiled into its final canonized form in 1924, 93 years ago. Folks, please, this book is not worthy of your time. You can see why we're doing this. You need to stop looking at this book. Please don't say this is from God. Written by men, failed men, with all kinds of failures. Been great having you, Hatun. Thank you for your time and energy. good to make sure that we have now unpacked it. Now you come to a decision as to whether or not you're going to follow this book. We haven't even gone into the Bible yet. That's going to be coming up as to asking the same questions of the Bible. But what we do now know, this book cannot be trusted. This is Jay here in London at the Jay's Show. Over and out.